can't hear. They're all deaf. They don't have ears. But they're very, very sensitive to the vibration of the earth. So when you're walking through and you go like that, it sends out vibrations in all directions, and the snakes move out of your way. There's only one snake that won't move out of your way, and that's the death adder, which actually used to be called the deaf adder. That's because, before they knew that they didn't have ears and couldn't hear. They figured this one was deaf because it wouldn't move. But so when you're walking through the bush, you're always looking at patterns. And if you see a circular pattern, it's probably a snake. So either you go around it or back up and go the other way. And if you do get bit by a snake, chances are it doesn't have venom in it, but just in case, like if you get bit on the foot, you put a pressure bandage. Just take a t-shirt and rip it up and wrap it around here. Not real tight, but just to slow the blood down. And wrap your whole leg and immobilize your leg. Like you'd put a splint on it on both sides. Like a rainforest sapling or some kind of sapling down one side and down the other side, and wrap it up, because you don't want to move. You definitely don't want to move. If you're with somebody that gets bit, you want them to just sit down, lay down, make them comfortable, relaxed, but don't move, because it's your body. If your body has enough time to deal with this poison, you'll be all right. It's when you get afraid and you start getting your heart going like that, it rushes to your heart and your body can't deal with it. The Aboriginals never died from snake bites. All the old elders tell me that you just stop for 3 days. If you got bit, you just stop. And they actually had visions. They had, it was like a psychedelic journey from what I can tell. And, like the Hopi Indians in Native America, they dance with the rattlesnake and pray for rain every year. And they inject the toxins from the rattlesnake into them after they've fasted for 7 days. And then they dance themselves into a frenzy and pray for rain after they've planted corn out in the desert. And every year for 4,000 years it's rained. I think snakes are fascinating and beautiful and such an intricate part of nature. I mean, without them, rats would be out of control and so many things. So, yeah, I love snakes. Okay, here we go. Look at this. This is an acacia. It's what we call black wattle. And all the acacias are edible. You can eat the flower, the young leaf, the gum, which is what I'm going to do here right now. And just take that and put it in your mouth and suck on it like a lolly. And it's full of nutrition. So you can eat the flower, the young leaves, and the gum. And you can also eat the green seeds. And you can roast the mature seeds and smash them and make them into damper. And acacias grow all over Australia. So there's another food source. And the gum that I'm eating right now is really sweet and nice. The Aboriginals loved it so much, they used to come along in the winter and take their tomahawk and scar the tree. And then they'd come back in the spring and there'd be a big glob of this, like as big as my fist, on the tree, and they'd harvest that. So they used to cultivate it, basically, and harvest it as a main food in their diet. This is native sorrel. It has a yellow flower. Here's some budding. You can just see the little yellow bud. It's a native sorrel. If you see a sorrel that's got a blue flower, well, that was an introduced one, but they're still edible. And this plant is very common. It grows everywhere from here to Cooktown. And you just eat that clover-like leaf. It would be nice with the gum, actually. It's a bit sour. Very nice. And look at this, Mark. I knew there was mussels down there. There's mussels in all the creeks. Living naturally is a lot healthier. In our society, we've been conditioned to believe that when you're 60, you're old. and you're going to get arthritis, and you're going to get this, and you're going to get that, and there's no more going bushwalking and going swimming or snow skiing or whatever. It's just all downhill from there, and I saw with my own eyes that that's not true. It doesn't have to be that way. And then, you know, after, that made such an intense impression on me. When I had my children, I was convinced to live naturally, to grow our food and to make our own clothes and try to live like my grandfather. And it was amazing, because my children had more endurance than anyone that I've ever met in my life. They used to jump in the sea. I raised them in Hawaii, and they used to jump in the sea and swim so far out you couldn't see them anymore, all three of them. And they'd be out there for hours. And then they'd come back and they'd start telling me every day, like it was a new event, about how the dolphins would surround them. And because the adults hunt at night, they have to sleep and rest. So they sleep and rest while their children play with my children. My son used to climb coconut trees in a grove, like maybe 12 coconut trees in one very close together. And he used to climb one, get the nuts out, and jump from one crown to the next. I've never seen anybody with the endurance that they had. And they never got sick. They never got one cavity. I never took them to a doctor. So, yeah. So I've been able to see the whole cycle through the generations. And obviously it's made an intense impression on me. And so, you know, I just think that just got to realize that that's not natural. You know, like in all primitive societies, they didn't have cavities, they didn't have cancer, they didn't have all these bloody diseases that we have today. So what does it tell you? You know, and where are your riches? You know, are they really in a brand new car that breaks down and goes, you know, it's useless after a while? Or are they in the sunsets and the beautiful flowers and each other, friends? Those are where your riches. That's where my riches are. That's it. Well, look at this, Mark. Wild ginger, and it's got a bit of fruit on it. Looks like the birds beat us to most of it. But yeah, there's still a little bit here. One, have it try. And it's beautiful. I reckon it's full of vitamin C. A bit sour, full of seeds. Very nice, huh?
Yeah.
A bit of a ginger flavor. This is a really good plant to know. It's everywhere on the margins of the rainforest. Maybe not totally in dry scrub, but maybe. It's almost everywhere I go. And it's a great source of water. And also, you know, you can get the roots too as well and flavor a soup or make medicine out of it. Ginger is a really good medicine. And but like if you're walking through the bush and you need some water, you just break one of these. You just break it off down at the stem there. I'm not going to do it because I don't really need the water at the moment. And then just chew the stem up. There's heaps of water in the stem. Chew it up and spit the pulp out. It's beautiful. You know, like I was actually there living with my grandparents when my uncle came. My uncle saved up money during the war. He built airplanes and for the United States Air Force, and saved all his money. And then when the war was over, and he came up because they raised the taxes on my grandfather, and he wasn't able to pay the taxes with 30 acres of wheat anymore. So my uncle came up and basically took over the farm. He bought him a tractor so we could put in more wheat, twice as much wheat, and he bought it. Well, he built him a house because we just lived in a one-room house made out of logs, a log cabin, and my uncle tore it down and built this huge, well, two-story house, and bought my grandmother a wash machine, and we got electricity, and got a tractor. My grandfather couldn't stand the smell or the sound of it, and he farmed with horses, and he loved his horses. You know, they were very real good friends of his. And we all did. I mean, it was a lot of fun. But then the tractor, the smell of it, that was the worst. And then the sound. And anyway, yeah, it was a 2-story house. And my grandmother, the first time she tried going down the stairs, she fell and died. And that's when I had to go back and live with my parents. And then it was after that, when I went off to uni, I was on a gymnastics scholarship in Southern California. And I came home on holiday one time, and my grandfather was there, and that was after my grandmother died. And he was 98 at that time, and he was teasing me because I was growing my hair out long. And he was calling me a girl and everything, so I thought, oh, I'll just throw him down gently and pin him, but instead he pinned me. We physically wrestled, and it got more and more intense to the point where I realized that he was stronger than me. And he actually put my shoulders to the ground with his knees on my shoulders here, and then we just both cracked up laughing. But you know, my father wouldn't have been able to do that at 60. You know, that's the difference. Either naturalized, it's been here for hundreds of years, or it is a native, I'm not sure which. But it produces a fruit, and you can't eat it. It's very, very common. I use the vine for weaving, which I'll collect some of this for weaving. But the flower is delicious, and it grows everywhere. And I'm just sure it's full of nutrition. It's absolutely delicious. I'm going to harvest some of this for weaving. Those are the fruits. And I'll just crack one open. They never get ripe. There's never nothing in them. Some people call it stinking passion fruit. Okay, so then I just strip all these off. And I've got a nice weaver or basket. Well, one thing I haven't talked about is clothing. Like this shirt is made from a deer hide, a feral deer, from some part of Australia. I think it's Tasmania or somewhere. But I taught somebody how to tan in exchange for this hide, and tanned it and made it into a shirt. And well, leather, as far as clothing goes, from my perspective, it's the best because it holds the body heat in, it blocks the wind, it's incredibly durable, especially naturally tanned leather. It lasts for lifetimes. It doesn't have a lifetime like chemically tanned leather, which, you know, after 10 or 20 years you can just rip that stuff apart. Well, you can't do that with this kind of leather. It's going to last for hundreds of years. And so yeah, maybe in the next doco that we do in this series, we'll show you how to tan and make your own clothing, because that's a real big part of being self-sufficient, isn't it? Is being able to provide your own clothing. And we're definitely not going to grow enough cotton and spin it into material and weave it into clothing. So. And this, like in Native America, they only make one set of clothes that lasts their lifetime. When you become a man or a woman in Native America, you made a set of buckskins, and those lasted you your life. That was your only set of clothing. When they got dirty, you'd wash them and wring them out and hang them by the fire. Put them back on in the morning. So, yeah, that's a really important thing. I just want to finish up with saying there's over 1,000 species of palm trees, and all of them have a heart that you can eat. And of course you wouldn't take it unless it's in a survival situation. And when you do, you always look for clumps so that you can take one and it helps the others grow. And all the hearts of the grass tree are edible, and they're delicious as well. And it's the same situation. You don't take them unless you're in a survival situation. Or they're growing real close together and you can take one and it helps the others grow. And then all the hearts of the tree ferns. Okay, and then all the fiddleheads of all the tree ferns are edible. All the grass species are edible. All the hibiscus family is edible, unless it's a hybrid. That's important to know. Because if it has multiple layers of petals, that means it's a hybrid and it's probably toxic. So just that red one that's real common, most people know it. It's that big red, beautiful red hibiscus flower. That's very common. And when you're in the bush, there's I don't know how many species, but there's a lot of species of hibiscus that grows in the bush, and sometimes they're only this tall. But you'll see them from a long ways away because they have a bright yellow or orange flower.